What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, unfortunately, I have some bad news for you guys for the F30 335i. So actually about a week ago, I was driving home and suddenly I lost boost pressure and ended up pulling over and realized that my charge pipe blew. So we're gonna go ahead and swap some things out today. I've got a nice big care package over here from ARM Motorsports. We're gonna be replacing a front mount intercooler, the charge pipe, as well as the turbo to intercooler pipe as well, boost pipe, whatever you want to call it. If you guys are new here to the channel, thanks for clicking on the video, and please consider subscribing if you are into some DIY content. I have a 2013 BMW E92 M3 as well as a 2014 F30 335i, which you can see right here behind me. So one of the biggest flaws with the N54, N55 is a common problem with the charge pipe blowing. It is a plastic piece from BMW, and typically when you turn up the boost, the pipe will actually crack off. So this is actually a stock car pretty much for the moment in terms of motor. It did come with a BMW M Performance power kit on it, so it does have a BMW M Performance intake as well as a tune from BMW, but pretty much stock, if you want to call it that. I haven't done anything physically to the motor, or in terms of tuning, or any other aftermarket parts for the motor. So I'm actually really kind of surprised that the charge pipe blew, considering I had a 2008 E90 335i with upgraded turbos and full bolt-ons. I was pushing nearly 500 wheel horsepower, and I never changed the charge pipe on that. So somehow, I don't know, maybe I just got lucky, but pretty shocking that this actually happened. I'll show you guys what we got. All right, so like I said, I was on my way home the other night about a week ago, and I did maybe a small little pull, nothing crazy, and all of a sudden I lost boost. Ended up pulling over. Fortunately, I wasn't too far from home, so I pulled over. The car went into limp mode, basically, and the check engine light popped up on the dash. Pulled over, popped the hood, and instantly saw this. So as you can see, part of the charge pipe is blown off and is completely gone. There should also be a metal retaining clip there, so who knows where that is. Hopefully it's down there in the engine bay somewhere, otherwise it's on the side of the road. So anyway, I took the car home, limped it home basically, and it has really not moved at all for the last week. I was trying to figure out what to do in terms of aftermarket parts. Decided to go with ARM Motorsports, so we've got a care package here from them. Pretty big box here, and this is a pretty affordable aftermarket solution for this. So on my E90 335i, I went with a bunch of VRSF parts. I didn't really want to go that route again, just because I've tried all that stuff, and pretty good bang for the buck. And a lot of the intercoolers and the charge pipes and everything, aftermarket stuff for this car, for this platform, are going to be very similar in terms of gains anyway. So I was interested in doing like Evolution Raceworks or something else like that, but for the price, you really can't beat ARM Motorsports. This whole kit here was under 500 bucks, basically shipped, and I actually purchased this on a Thursday, I believe, Thursday afternoon, and it arrived at my house Friday afternoon. So I don't even think 24 hours went by and it showed up at my doorstep. So super happy with that. Hopefully the fitment's good. As far as I know, everything should be pretty easy to do, simple to do. I'm kind of used to doing this kind of stuff anyway, so I'm going to take you guys along for the ride. Okay, so let's get this going here. What we need to do first is remove the front bumper. I actually have not taken the bumper off this car yet, so pretty standard though. For the most part, I've taken off lots of other bumpers on other BMWs, and it should be pretty much the same. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna start off by pulling up this winter stripping. Just kind of comes right up, pretty simple. Move that to the side, and then you're gonna see a bunch of Torx bits here. I'm gonna have to check the size. I think this is a T30 and a T26, something like that. Take a look in a minute. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them here, and then one here, and one here. So 8 total, and then there's a bunch of 8mm screws underneath, as well as a few plastic clips. So we're gonna have to remove all that stuff on the bottom. And then additionally, over here on the wheel wells, there's gonna be a couple 8mm, 1, 2, 3 that we need to remove, and then we can stick our hand back here, and there are actually two more 8mm bolts, screws that basically screw the bumper into the actual fender itself. So there's 2 here that we need to take off. Same thing with the other passenger side. And after that, we should be able to remove the whole thing. One other thing I want to note is if you have parking distance control sensors like I do, some PDC, or if you have headlight washers, you're going to need to disconnect those when you remove the bumper. So we need to be pretty careful. I think the connection for the PDC is over here on the passenger side. So once we get the bumper mostly off, I need to just stick my hand on there, behind there, and unplug the sensors, and the whole thing should come off. All right, so we're gonna get this bumper off. What we need to do first is jack the car up in the air. I'm gonna do that real quick and then I'll come back to you. And boom. Magic. Okay, I'm gonna start here on the bottom with a bunch of these 8mm, and then we'll move to the top. All right, so I've got the 8mm ones on the bottom. We're gonna go ahead and work on these right here. Okay, so I went ahead and removed the 3 wheel well screws, 8mm on that side and the passenger side. Now we're gonna move to the top here. We've got 6 T30 screws and then 2 T25 screws, and then after that we can remove the 2 that connect the bumper to the fender on each side. Okay, now we're ready to remove the 2 screws here that are holding the bumper and the fender together. So if you kind of peek your head in here, which you might not be able to see, there is a screw right where my finger is here. And then if you pull back the wheel well a little bit, you can actually see the other screw. So there's one basically right here and right here. So we'll do it on both passenger and driver sides. Okay, so I went ahead and removed those 2. Don't worry about mixing up all your screws because they're all 8mm. The only 2 that are different are gonna be these here. They're a little bit longer, pretty obvious. So I did that to the passenger side as well. And so basically what we need to do is pull this straight down. There's 2 little plastic tabs here on the end. You can kind of see on the bumper. So you just need to pull that down and pull it out just like that. And then we'll do that to the other side as well. All right, so at this point the whole bumper should be loose. And again, since I do have parking distance control sensors, I need to unplug it, and it's on the passenger side here. So just pull this straight out. Do a little bit on each side so I don't scratch anything. There we go. And then this side has the actual sensor itself. Unplug it. So down in here, here's the plug that I'm referring to. And basically you gotta squeeze it just like this on both sides and pull it out. Okay, so pretty simple to do. The only other thing I want to note is if you happen to have a front license plate, maybe a tow hook cover, you want to obviously remove that first before the bumper. Additionally, if you have your license plate drilled directly into your bumper, it will actually go through the foam here. And so you want to make sure you remove the license plate, otherwise this whole piece is going to try to come with it. So do that first. So now that we've got the front end off, pretty simple to do, obviously. What we're going to do is actually remove this giant underbody panel, and there's like 20 plus 8mm screws all the way around the entire perimeter of it, a couple in the middle, so you need to pull this down in order to get to the intercooler here. All right, so as you can see, I've got a whole pile of 8mm screws. Definitely use an impact if you got one, just to make your life a little easier. And here's the felt under tray, pretty beat up, so probably full of rocks. So next step is going to be to remove this plastic shroud here. This goes all the way around the perimeter basically of the intercooler. So there's a couple things holding this in. The right hand side of here, this is under the driver's side headlight. You can see, sticking my screwdriver in here, you can kind of see this little clip here. So we need to release this clip. So basically what we're going to do is pull it forward and push up. It's be hard to see. There's one on that side there. And there's another one right there behind that silver bolt. And once we release those, we can actually pull this whole shroud out. So there's a good chance that you might break those clips getting them off. But basically, like I said, you have to kind of push them together and push up. There's not a lot of room there, so I ended up breaking this side off. Got them both loose. This one's still kind of intact. So we're just gonna push this down. Kind of gotta wiggle it. There we go. There we go. So, like I said, I'm probably gonna likely break these off, so that's where that clip was, one on each side. Okay, so now moving below the car, this is the stock intercooler here. We're gonna focus here on the charge pipe. So we need to remove this. This is the stock charge pipe. This is going to be really difficult to get out. So if you can see, on the upper side of the charge pipe, right here where my screwdriver is pointing, there's a black plastic piece. This is extremely difficult to get off. It's basically holding this metal in place so that way under boost it won't actually come apart, so that's intentional, but this piece is going to be pretty hard to remove. You just got to kind of force it out. I'm going to use a couple different tools here, maybe a screwdriver. I've also got a plastic trim tool, but this is probably going to tear up your fingertips, just FYI. All right, so here's a closer look at the black clip that I was mentioning that's wrapped around the charge pipe. So you kind of have to squeeze these together. So there's these little black tabs here on the back side that are actually holding that retaining clip in. So what I did, you see this little slot right here on the side. I took my screwdriver and I kind of wedged it in there and propped it up, and it kind of popped off. I did that on both sides. So now we can take off the metal retaining clip. So we should be able to get this off now. I'm going to use my screwdriver here. There we go. So moving over to the passenger side, we're going to do the exact same thing. So once again, we've got the black plastic piece back here that we need to remove first, and then the actual retaining clip. Okay, so I'm going to use my little flathead here and this little cutout right here. I'm going to stick this through. Let's see, a bigger one. Punch it through. There's one. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side of it. A little bit harder to see. There we go. Got that out. And then we'll take our smaller screwdriver here and stick my hand in here and try to move the clip out a little bit. One on each side. Let's see. There we go. Gonna break it loose a little bit. And then I should be able to use my screwdriver, a bigger one, and prop it in here. There we go. See, there's also a little lip here that you have to get this over. So there we go. All right, so now what we can do is kind of pull this boost pipe up out of the way, kind of disconnect it just like that. You can kind of see it's apart now. So this intercooler is ready to come out. The only thing we need to do is take a T25 and remove this screw here, and then one here on the driver's side, and then this entire intercooler will pop out. So this is a T25. There's one. And two. Lots of dirt and junk in here. There we go. So now that we've got the stock intercooler out, there it is. Actually kind of glad to get that out of there because there were a ton of leaves and dirt and rocks and stuff all back here. I don't know if the previous owner drove through a field or something, but there are just leaves and all kinds of crap back here. So I'm going to take the time to kind of clean all this up. You can see more leaves by the oil coolers there. So all kinds of junk fell out on the floor. But first we're going to move up on top here and finally remove this broken charge pipe. So what we're going to start with is the math sensor down here. All right, where my finger is pointing to. So we're going to unplug that, and then there's also a vacuum line down here plugged into the the charge pipe that we need to remove as well. So to remove the vacuum line, you just kind of need to squeeze it and pull it out, and then same thing with the plug there. Squeeze the Molex plug basically and pull that out. So from this angle, unfortunately, you're not gonna be able to see what I'm doing, but just to make my life a little bit easier, I'm just gonna take off the MAF sensor right now. I've got this little handy dandy little screwdriver kit that I purchased a while back on Amazon for like $10, but you can use whatever, this little small ratchet, but you need to have a T20. So there's two screws, two T20 screws that are holding the MAF sensor in here. So carefully remove those. These aren't on here very tight because it is just going into plastic. And then try not to drop the screw, obviously. So there's one little screw. And you want to be very careful. We don't want to damage the sensor. It is a costly piece to replace. There's screw number 2 out, and I'm just going to pull up on the sensor. There we go. I released it. I'm just going to push this out of the way. I'm going to actually disconnect this now. It kind of gave me a little bit more slack to do it this way. That's kind of why I did it. Here we go. Got it. So that's what the sensor looks like there. And we will be using this on the new Chargepipe, so don't lose that. So depending on your car, you may or may not have one of these vacuum lines. If it's a manual, you won't, but if it's an automatic, you will. This is an automatic, so there's 2 little clips that we need to squeeze. I'll show you that in a minute once I get this off. All right, so I know you guys couldn't see that, but that one was kind of hard to do because there's just very limited space. But essentially, the clip is the vacuum hose, or vacuum line, or whatever, is the same as this one here. So what you want to do, there's a little clip on this side and this side. If you squeeze them together, so you kind of have to use 2 hands almost. Squeeze together. And it'll pop out just like that. So it's a little bit difficult. It's all plastic though, so my fingertips are just destroyed at this point. So that's basically what it will look like down there. The other end, I'm just gonna go ahead and put that back in. And good thing is I found the metal retaining clip that connects the charge pipe to the throttle body. So it just happened to be sitting in there. Even though the charge pipe is broken, I did find that piece, which I think we need to use on the new ARM Motorsports charge pipe. So at this point, now we can go back down to the very bottom underneath the car and actually pull the charge pipe out. It's just kind of sitting in here. There is a little rubber grommet that holds the charge pipe in place, but it's already loose and already off, so no big deal there. But it is very limited on space, so you kind of gotta finagle it and wiggle it down from the bottom and get it out. Okay, so the hard part with this is your limited space. It's very tight down here. It is helpful if you have a second person to kind of help navigate things up on top, and then one person here on the bottom, but I always do things by myself, so I am forced to get up and down to try to get this through, but I've already kind of finagled it through, and I think I'm good now. Very limited space. So you gotta twist and pull and all kinds of stuff. So there we go, I think we got it. Let's see. More or less out here. Just gotta twist it some more. There we go. So that's what that looks like. And actually the rubber grommet that was holding this in place also blew off. That's why it was already loose. It broke here and clearly broke here and blew a hole right there. So don't know where those little pieces went. Hopefully it didn't get sucked into anything. I don't think it did, but this is why you need to upgrade your charge pipe if you decided to add, more boost, because this is what will potentially happen when you turn the boost up. And that's just what's crazy about this is still a factory stock car. Like I said, it does have a BMW M Performance power kit on it, so it's got maybe 30 horses more than a regular standard 335. But for this to happen, it's just poor design really and cheap plastic parts. So we at least got this side off. Now what we're gonna do is work on the other side, the charge pipe basically that goes from the intercooler to the turbo. That is actually a different type of material. It's more like a silicone type pipe instead of plastic. So the likelihood of that going bad is pretty slim. And I only have 40,000 miles on this car, so not likely that I need to change that, but I bought the pipe anyway. Might as well do it if I'm already in here and taking everything apart anyway. So we'll get to that one next. Basically the charge pipe that goes from the turbo to the intercooler, and as you can see we have 0 space to work with here. But the piping is generally the same. I mean, same kind of process as removing the clips, retaining clips off of the end of the charge pipe, the normal charge pipe. The only problem is we don't have any space, so I'm going to try to show you. That silver pipe right there is what we need to get to, and it's really far down in there, as you can see. But again, the process is going to be pretty much the same. So it's got, on one end it's got this plastic little piece that we need to basically pull off on one side, and then it has the retaining clip, same process as we did on the bottom part. So that's going to be tricky, but we'll get it. All right, so before we go any further, I do want to open up this package from ARM Motorsports just to make sure we have everything we need in here. I'm sure that we do, but just in case I don't want to have to pull stuff off the car that I don't need to pull off. So, again, very fast shipping. Looks super nice in here. We've got some new clamps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Some silicone piping here. Some more stuff. Same with this. The cool thing is it does have a little meth bunge if I decide to add meth at some point, but not in the works for now. So this is where the vacuum line will go back in, obviously the MAP sensor, and the actual intercooler. Wow, this is a lot bigger than the stock one. So, and this should provide us with a lot more flow. So we've got new hardware here, which is good. There we go. So there's the new one, but a lot bigger than the stock one. Here's a sizing comparison between the stock intercooler there versus the ARM Motorsports one there. As you can see, a lot bigger intercooler, so we're going to get a lot cooler temperatures. So it's 3 inch intercooler. That's more than sufficient for what we're doing. We're not going to be making like 700 horsepower here with this thing. That's not my intention with this car, but we will turn the boost up a little bit, and this will help us get there. So I unscrewed this little reservoir here just to kind of help give me a little bit more wiggle room. But mostly what I did was pop this end of the cover up a little bit, moved it to the side, kind of gave me the ability to stick my screwdriver down in there against that pipe. And I was able to basically push off the little black plastic piece here. And what helps is this particular charge pipe is not plastic, so I actually came here from the bottom and kind of twisted the charge pipe. So once I was able to pull that plastic piece off, I should be able to get in here now and remove the retaining clip, which hopefully you guys can see. All right, down there, you can see the little retaining clip right there. So basically, you need to get a pick tool or something with kind of like a 90-degree tip to kind of stick in there and pull out. All right, guys. So I finally got the retaining clip off. I used this little copper wire here, made a little angle here to kind of help me get in there and pull it apart. So finally got the clip out, and now we can go ahead and actually pull the charge pipe out of here. This one's easier to come out, so just like that. Pretty simple, and you can see it's kind of the same material. It's a silicone type material, but it will deteriorate, I guess, after time. So might as well replace it with something new. So that's that. Here is ARM Motorsports, their website here, and this is the intercooler that I've purchased. So as you can see, if you scroll over pictures, they've got a couple different colors, black. So if you happen to not purchase their Chargepipe and Turbopipe options, this is what you're going to get. So this will actually connect with your factory Chargepipe and Turbopipe. So that's what that would look like if you didn't purchase the extra piping that I did. So I did the turbo outlet pipe as well as the Chargepipe. So this is what ours is going to look like today. As you can see, if you keep scrolling, a couple different options here. Okay, so this is what we're going to do with the Chargepipe. So as you can see, the top part is metal, and then the lower part is going to be that silicone material. So I will construct that over here first, and then same thing. This is with the turbo outlet pipe, and that is basically what that looks like there. So got a metal pipe on top that connects to the turbo, and then the silicone pipe there. And additionally, they did give us some clamps, so I'm kind of constructing things over here as we speak. So I'm just kind of making the shape look as close as possible. Obviously, we'll have to make some adjustments when we actually get it in there, but this is going to be the Chargepipe side. So that's kind of how that looks. And then here you can see the OEM Turbopipe versus the new one here. And obviously it's a little bit longer because the intercooler is bigger, so we need some extra piping there, extra length of piping. So that's generally what those look like. I think I'm going to try to put these two clamps on. I'm going to put one here for that connection, and then one here for this connection, and then the other two will be for where they actually connect to the intercooler itself on the other end. One other thing I want to mention, since this does have a meth bunge on it and we're not utilizing that, I'm just going to make sure that this is tightened down. It's an Allen, so just going to tighten it down, make sure we're not going to have any boost leaks. As mentioned before, if you have an automatic, you will have that vacuum pipe from the Chargepipe. If you have a manual, you're going to have to plug that, and they give you this little plug kit here as well. All right, before we go any further, this is the stock pipe here. So there's actually a little gasket in here that we're going to be pulling out of here, and we're going to utilize in this pipe. As you can see, I put the stock retaining clip and this plastic piece back on. That's kind of how it's oriented, so it'll go on just like this. So if you look at the back side of it, this is what it should look like. So you'll see that the retaining clips are here on the edge, one there, and then it's currently sitting like that. So when this is already in, ready to go in place, I'm just going to push this little retaining clip part, metal piece back into this hole, and it'll lock it all in. So I'm going to transfer this over. Okay, so here's what I'm talking about. If you look inside of here, you'll see this black little O-ring, this little gasket. This is what I pulled out of the stock one, and there's actually on the new one here, on the arm piece, it has a little cutout, and this fits perfectly inside of there. So this ensures that we have a perfect seal once it's actually up on the car. And as you can see, it fits nicely, and we're ready to put this on. So I'm actually going to put this piece on first, lock it into place, and then I'm going to come back with the silicone side and the clamp. Okay, so under the car here, show you what I got. So there is our turbo pipe. You gotta make sure you push it all the way in. It'll like basically click into place, and that's how you know how far it needs to go. And then if you look on the top side, you can actually see, hopefully, right there. So it's pushed up against the turbo flange there. And then as you can see, the metal retaining clip I have not put in and locked it in place yet, but that's how it should look on the top. Okay, so finally have it all in there. Should be locked into place now. Took a couple tries just to make sure. You got to make sure that that retaining clip is tight, because if it's moving around, then something's not in properly. So I think it's good now. And then here on the bottom, here is the boost pipe there. You can kind of see the band there that we need to tighten on still. I'm going to leave it loose for now. That's a 10 millimeter that we need to tighten, but I'm not sure if it needs to go in or out a little bit more, and we'll get a better idea of that once we get the actual intercooler up here in place. But that's what it looks like from the bottom, and we do have access to screw that down and tighten it. So and there's plenty of clearance. It's kind of right next to the water pump right there, but there's some clearance, so we're not actually touching anything. So that's what that looks like. All right guys, so that pretty much wraps up on how to remove all of the stock parts as well as install the turbo pipe. So I'm gonna end the video here. We're gonna start another video. This is probably gonna be a 2 or 3 part series. This being part 1. And the next part, we're going to do the charge pipe, and then we'll finally get the intercooler on and then reinstall everything. So if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns about anything that we've done here today, please let me know. Otherwise, we will see you guys in the next video. Take care. Stay tuned for episode 2, maybe even 3. We'll see you then. Take care.